workshop. So it's hard to innovate inside of these two dungeons, so it's really going to come down to like the very small intricacies of how both of these teams are ending up playing King's Rest. We've seen WUNDERBAR and Golden Guardians play KR already this weekend, and we know that they're going to end up line of sighting a bunch of the explosives and the mobs in this Golden Serpent room for the first pull of the dungeon. That allows them to be able to get this first pull underway as quickly as possible, get the mobs grouped up, and make sure that they're line of sighting a bunch of Deathly Chill casts and explosives.
Yeah, so for some context here, WUNDERBAR's best time in King's Rest was just shy of, or just under 20 minutes, 19 minutes, 56 seconds. Golden Guardians, when we saw them play this yesterday against Complexity Limit, they had a 20-minute, 27-second run. But it was filled with 3 deaths that were probably, if you took those out of the equation, would have gotten them competitive with WUNDERBAR's time as well. So this is going to be a very, very close match, assuming nothing big goes wrong for either side.
Yep, and right now, you do see coming across both sides, you see the Ring of Peace coming out almost at identical times as the tanks are going to look to heroic leap out of danger to be able to line of sight a bunch of these mobs, get away from all those enraged champions and enraged mobs as they do drop sub 20%.
Now
and now goes down to the side of
WUNDERBAR. For WUNDERBAR, that's going to be a full team wipe.
Oh!
Unless, yeah, there's no way that they can recover this.
That's
the
a wipe.
question is, can they kill these champions? So there are 3 champions. Oh, and there's a Witch Doctor left. That Witch Doctor is spamming those Deathly Chill casts. It will be killing pets first, because the pets have more threat than any of the hunters. But you can see now Frag and Gingy kiting for their lives. Oh my goodness. Look at that play. Gingy ducking back and forth in and out of the line of sight. He needed to. He had to be really careful there because there was a champion running after him as well. But he needed to line that Witch Doctor. I think they're going to be successful here. I think they are going to be able to actually finish this pull. And the call has been made for them to not release because they believe that they can actually finish this pull, and then they'll be able to res Xaylia, and then they'll be able to get the Master Res out. And actually, you can see the Battle Res coming out on Xaylia right now because they Invis potioned here. So if they release, they would not have access to that to get back this time.
Now Invis potted here, so there's no way that he can be able to make it back. Oh, and then also the Hunters probably have their camouflage back up, so they can make it back in. But, oh, that was a tragedy for WUNDERBAR. Golden Guardians, on the other hand, 65% on the Golden Serpent. They have those 2 Colossus mobs on the pull as well. As long as Lighty is able to dance around with the Colossus frontals, this should be pretty good for Golden Guardians. They're utilizing the 3-target cleave from the rapid reload with the Hunters to be able to gain significant amounts of single-target damage while doing efficient cleave. This is looking fairly textbook from Golden Guardians, and they're pulling it off perfectly.
Yeah, this was going to be a game that would have absolutely come down to a matter of inches and minor optimizations, but with that huge mistake on the side of WUNDERBAR, the ball is now firmly in Golden Guardians' court. If they don't make any big mistakes and they execute their route properly, I don't see how WUNDERBAR can come back from this, unless they have some faster strategy than even the one we saw yesterday, or 2 days ago, which would be very, very impressive because their strategy was already very fast.
Well, it's like whenever we were talking about King's Rest and Workshop in the pre-show, and whenever we were talking about like right as the match started, there's not a lot of optimizations that you can do in this dungeon. Like, there's only so many things that you are able to do and pull off in terms of strategies. A lot of the times, you just kind of have to go in a linear direction with how the dungeon ends up working out. Golden Guardians here are about to be down in Golden Serpent momentarily. You're going to see J.B running off to the side, grabbing the 2 other constructs with the minions of Zul. And then the rest of the group is going to be walking into that gauntlet area and starting that gauntlet.
So what's the lore behind the Golden Serpent and the Golden Guardians being hostile to each other instead of friendly?
That's a great question.
It's the kind of thing that keeps me up at night watching these games.
That's a great question. I have some weird conspiracy theories with other things, but Golden Guardians and Golden Serpent is not one of the ones that I am well informed about, unfortunately, Dratnos. I'm sorry.
All right, we can see over here on the side of Golden Guardians, yeah, J.B running into these minions of Zul. A couple of them actually targeting him. That's kind of lucky because they're not going to be targeting somebody else when they run in, yeah.
So JB normally ends up just walking into them and getting a couple of them feared away from him before he ends up pulling the constructs because he doesn't want those constructs pulled yet. Then he'll try to catch up with them as quickly as he possibly can and spinning crane kick some of them to be able to get off a little bit of health from the shield because, of course, running a triple hunter comp on Alliance, you don't have access to a ton of purges, so they're going to DPS through the shields like you just saw right there. And now here come the constructs. They're going to come out with this 3-pack of kings. WUNDERBAR on the other side, on the left side of your screen, has now engaged the king and all those agents. Xaylia probably doing something very similar to what we saw from J.B a second ago.
Yeah, this is... Well, actually, what happened on Wunderbar, they have a slightly different strategy where they pull those minions in with Golden Serpent. So they're able to do this part a little bit quicker as a result of that. So that may help them close this gap a tiny bit between where they are and where the Golden Guardians are. However, Golden Guardians are more than a full king pack ahead here.
Look at this, too.
This time.
Golden Guardians do something that's incredibly smart, and they down all 3 of the mobs that are in that gauntlet pack immediately. That is their top priority, to be able to get the next gauntlet pack to start spawning. And then once those 3 mobs are down with a little bit more priority focus, they then turn their sights onto those 2 constructs. It's just to be able to try to get that next gauntlet pack spawned as quickly as possible.
Right, it's this fundamental understanding that these teams are so good at of what is the bottleneck in this dungeon. You know, what is the thing that is slowing us down here? And it's not the animated guardians' health. They have all the time in the world to kill those animated guardians. It could not matter less if they were even still alive right now. The only thing that matters is killing the king and queen packs so that you can then trigger the next one. And that, yeah, is really great prioritization from both teams, actually. You can see doing that. In fact, Wunderbar still have their animated constructs alive. Or animated guardians alive, an extra pack ahead, I think, of where golden guardians were. No, maybe not. No. The camera angle tricked me there. Yeah.
Okay, so look at this. Golden Guardians do a great job of utilizing Ring of Peace to be able to knock that raptor back into melee. You can't stun it or anything like that. So that you can't either trap it either. So the hunters positioning themselves closer to melee to be able to make sure that that beast cleave is applied on 2 targets. Excellent. Golden Guardians do not hesitate. As soon as the gates drop from that gauntlet area, they all 5 pop a Lightfoot Potion. They run all the way through here. I believe that they actually kill this Purification Construct from what we saw yesterday.
Yeah, this is something that was different than Complexity Limit strategy in here. When we saw the 2 of these teams, the 2 of those teams match up earlier. They're just dealing with this construct. There are ways to skip this, but I think their thought process is, hey, it's going to take us a little bit of time to skip this thing anyways, and if we kill it, then instead of doing a 5-pack later, we can just do 2 enemies from a 3-pack, and then have the 3rd one eventually come in with King Tazar. So that is the difference that we're going to see, yeah.
Because you have to spend some time to skip it, you may as well just drop some damage on it. In addition to that, all of these embalming fluids, you're going to have your cooldowns up immediately just over and over again since you are running hunters with rapid reload traits, and their Bestial Wrath is almost like it has an insanely high uptime as is. So you can actually pop offensive cooldowns on that Purification Construct and not sweat it too much. Wunderbar on the other side, though, are electing to skip the Purification Construct. You see Xaylia setting up his Transcendence, transcending away as soon as that Purification Construct does start to cast his frontal ability, and now Xaylia, being the only one in combat, melds it off. Now is already grouping the Internment Constructs and Embalming Fluids in the room. On the other side of the screen, though, Golden Guardians have pulled the Internment Constructs into Machimba. Wunderbar's kind of starting to catch up here.
Yeah, we'll have to actually check this boss 2 split timer. That'll be a good way to indicate which of these teams has a faster strategy here. However, even if Wunderbar has closed the gap a little bit, remember that they've gotten a little bit less count here, right? Because they've skipped a mob that the Golden Guardians killed. So
absolutely.
Even if this gap closes from the 50 seconds that it was at in boss 1, I would still say that as long as it's not by too much, the Golden Guardians are in an advantage position here.
Yep, Lighty ends up getting Yoda out of the sarcophagus fairly quickly, probably to the point where Machimba will not be doing any mechanics. Basically, if you go fast enough on Machimba, he no longer casts any of his abilities. Wunderbar on the left-hand side have engaged Machimba. You have to get those Internment Constructs kind of low, because if they cast an Entomb while Machimba is active, that's bad news for you. So you kind of have to take this room slower normally to be able to make sure that you do have the correct killing power on those. And on the side of Wunderbar right now, you can see some mummies on the screen. Just a melee kick is enough for these mummies. It's not really that big of a deal. And with 100% CC uptime from things such as Paralysis or Freezing Trap that Wunderbar does have access to, these mummies aren't abnormally dangerous. You do have to make sure that you keep them CC'd, though.
Yeah, it's not the end of the world. I think this one was intended to be CC'd, the one that is under the boss. It ended up being too close to the boss, so it got hit by a Thunderclap. And it's not going to actually cost them any DPS or anything, because they'll just be able to interrupt it, and they're not going to focus any damage into it.
Yeah, exactly. I suspect that the only thing that's really going to even be hitting it's like Thunderclap, right? All right, so Golden Guardians here have down Machimba the Embalmer. We know that they are going to end up pulling some mobs into a corner. Like, they're going to overpull what is relatively normal in a live route.
This is such a scary part of this dungeon
Yes.
here on the side of Golden Guardians. What we're about to see is probably one of the pulls that wipes them the most in practice, if I had to guess. It's certainly the one that has wiped me the most on the live servers.
I have never pulled this much on live realms. So Lighty does a great job of using just the very smallest corner edge here to be able to get everything grouped up as quickly as possible. Then you see a shockwave coming through right as all of those raptors start their leap to be able to
no,
get
look at
them
that healing
stopped.
tide totem right in the middle of everything. They're going to kill it, but that got quite a bit of heal through. Lighty drops to 17%, gets the life cocoon. Yoda, though, not as fortunate, does perish. They'll be able to resurrect him. They have 2 battle reses available. They could use 1 here.
Okay, look at this. So they freezing trapped the Beastmaster that was in the back of the room for a moment to be able to stop it from casting abilities. Oh, Lip ends up going down.
Lip has gone down as well.
This is not great for Golden Guardians. The pack should be finishing up in just a moment, but with only 3 members, they have to chunk through a 30% health Beastmaster.
Tettles, look at this difference, though, between the Boss 2 splits. Exact same time for both teams. From Boss 1 to Boss 2, 6 minutes and 4 seconds. But Golden Guardians got extra count. Yeah, so in fact, it was not... The gap didn't close at that point. The gap actually opened a little bit. However, not by as much as I think was lost when the 2 hunters died on the side of Golden Guardians. So I think this game has actually gotten closer than it did at the first boss death point.
Alrighty, so if you were watching, Lip pops his camouflage and Lightfoot potions all the way down the platform. The rest of Golden Guardians are going into the Ny'alotha realm. All of them Lightfoot potioning, running all the way down to the platform, making their way towards the council area here in just a second. Lip will then engage the boss himself. He will tag Cool the Butcher. It will pull all of his friendly teammates out of that Ny'alothan realm. WUNDERBAR on the left-hand side are starting to catch back up, doing something very similar. You see Gingy and Miraz, they have to wait for
look at that.
That's so unlucky, actually.
I don't think it's unlucky because I think it's a fixed spawn and patrol of the Brood.
Yes.
I think that they murdered that
slow.
First pack so fast. Well, I think they were quick even. And that
They
there's
are
really a
allowed to
cap
either
on how
be-
fast they could be. Yeah.
Yeah, they are allowed to either be 15 seconds quicker to be able to get the hunters through before the brute happens, or they're allowed to be 15 seconds slower. But doing it where they did is unfortunately going to cost them to be take just a little bit extra time. Ooh, so now some of the spiders are making their way here. Okay, everything's fine. WUNDERBAR has engaged Cool the Butcher. Golden Guardians has about a 50% HP advantage on Cool the Butcher. Of course, this council fight is broken up into 3 parts, so 50% on Kula is not a typical 50% of a boss HP ahead, but it is a significant amount.
Yeah, this boss fight, especially on Tyrannical, it can feel like 3 full boss fights. It is a slog, but they are getting through it here, and it's nice on the tournament realm with this pattern that Kula is first. I'd say that is a... It's really favorable to deal with Kula the Butcher first, rather than trying to deal with it while there are, charges coming out from Akali's spirit.
Well, fortunately enough for the Golden Guardians, they do have 4 members who can deal with Akali's charge solo. 3 Feign Deaths, and if JB's feeling a bit frisky, he can jump off the edge and transcend back on.
Yep, that's a move that is very effective until it doesn't work one time, and then you are extremely sad and you're depleted. Yeah.
And your healer is at the bottom of nowhere, the abyss. All right,
Yeah.
WUNDERBAR has engaged Xanazal the Wise. Golden Guardians here have already killed the totems. They, of course, only kill that earthen wall totem and then begin to focus down Xanazal the Wise. They let the explosive totem go off. They just pop a couple of defensives there to be able to make sure that they don't end up going down. They really don't want to put any damage that otherwise could be put into Xanazal into these totems. They know that they can instead kill the totems during the intermission phase.
Yeah, there's really no rush on the Thunder and Crash totem or on the Torrent totem because they don't really have any casters or people that, like standing still and casting is punished by both of those totems, and their team doesn't have anybody who does either of those things. So it's a really strong thing about this composition compared to, if you're trying to actually have somebody cast Shadow Bolt or whatever. Oh no! JB tried to do the Transcend thing, but he didn't jump off in time, and he has been yeeted off the edge by Akali the Conqueror. That is really, really bad for Golden Guardians.
Okay, so this will be fine. This is not great in the moment, but it will be fine. Basically, the hunters here can feign death really late to be able to cause Akali to cast Barrel Through for an indefinite period of time. In addition to that, Yoda does have his turtle active. basically Lip is the only one without Turtle currently, and if it had to charge him, he would not be in great shape. Yoda can solo here with Turtle since he doesn't have his Feign Death available. Or actually, he's going to jump off.
He's jumping off and disengaging
back
on. That is a skillful maneuver. It does work though. Love to see that. The way that works is if you're off the edge of the platform when Akali would finish the charge cast, instead it can't figure out how to get to you because you're off the platform, and then you need to disengage back on before you're off the platform permanently. As the
difference in JB's damage is actually starting to become readily apparent here. WUNDERBAR is starting to catch up a little bit. They're still pretty far behind, maybe 25 seconds or so, but that definitely helped them put themselves in a position where they are okay. Again, 4% enemy forces count difference. We know Golden Guardians is going to do a pretty interesting strategy with how they're trapping this Beastmaster and pulling mobs into Shadow of Zul and whatnot. So we're going to be seeing that here momentarily. WUNDERBAR on the left-hand side have downed Akali the Conqueror and are making their way towards Shadow of Zul
17
themselves.
seconds slower than Golden Guardians there on the boss kill. Whew, this is close. However, I think Golden Guardians have a better strategy here because they just get to go straight into Shadow of Zul with a trash pull, whereas WUNDERBAR are doing a full trash pull before Shadow of Zul. So Golden Guardians with a time advantage and I think a strategy advantage here too.
I agree with that. It's those bottlenecks that you're talking about. Shadow of Zul actually has a pretty big bottleneck because you have to wait for the gate to drop. You have to wait for King Dazar to be summoned. So trying to get into Shadow of Zul and get him killed as quickly as possible without any backtracking is a major advantage. I do agree. I think this Golden Guardian strategy for how they're playing these mobs into Shadow of Zul is definitely an advantage.
We can actually test this though because we know that they killed the third boss 17 seconds before WUNDERBAR. Let's see how much quicker they pull the last boss compared to WUNDERBAR, and I think that will be a good indication of how much time they've saved with their different trash pathing in the dungeon.
So Shadow of Zul ends up going down as the first mob in the pack to be able to go down. There's a reanimated Raptor. The rest of the group is focusing that down, getting it killed. JB walks into the room to be able to start the Dazara RP, so he is going to be engageable here momentarily. There, of course, is some count that needs to be grabbed by the Golden Guardians. Most of it will end up coming from the 4 obelisks. Some of it will end up coming from that Beastmaster that they also have available to them that they make sure is trapped.
All right, they're now into the last boss fight. Bloodlust is popped. They have 2 battle reses available if they need it. If they can kill this last boss, they will surely win here. They are ahead enough that they can win by just killing this boss cleanly. But it is not an easy boss to kill cleanly, even without 4 Awakened Obelisks. And with 4 of them, it becomes very, very difficult. 25 seconds separating the 2 teams at start of pull. So actually, that is not enough to be super comfortable on the side of Golden Guardians.
No, if anybody ends up dying, I would be very concerned because you have the 5 death differential, plus you have just the time lost by the damage.
Yeah, the death differential right now is completely even, so it is all just which of these teams will kill this boss and the 4 Awakened mobs first. WUNDERBAR could close the gap here by priority damage more on Dazar and less on the Awakened enemies, but that does make the fight more dangerous, and we've already seen WUNDERBAR earlier in this MDI lose a King's Rest map because of Awakened enemies still being alive when Tazala spawned.
Yeah, I don't know if you really can commit to trying to focus down the boss any more than you did already previously in practice, right? But it looks like WUNDERBAR is starting to catch up a little bit here in terms of boss health.
Yeah, 5% separating the 2 King Dazar health totals. Oh my goodness.
0 death differential.
Yeah, the death differential is completely even. However, there are more Awakened enemies dead for Golden Guardians, so they should have an easier time as this fight progresses. Still, this is very, very, very close.
Yeah, this is absolutely insane. Yoda doing a really good job of disengaging away from that Quaking Leap. King Dazar here has reached 60% health, meaning he will mount Tazala momentarily, which is the mob that does, in fact, cast that fear ability. You do see, there's that Beastmaster that I was talking about earlier.
And hey, here's another thing. The Golden Guardians do have to kill that Beastmaster as well, so that is a little bit more health that they are going to have to chew through. As King Dazar, roughly reaching the same health amounts here.
So it may look on your screen like WUNDERBAR and Golden Guardians do not have adequate amounts of trash count. That is fairly normal. Shadow of Zul on the Tournament Realms, I don't know what the deal is. He doesn't give trash count, so that 96% is correct. They are actually at 100%.
Golden Guardians aren't quite yet, though.
Fine. Yeah,
Golden Guardians need to kill that Beastmaster, which they will do, but it is going to slow things down for them a little bit, right? WUNDERBAR here are ahead on King Dazar health.
How has this happened?
I don't quite understand it, Tettles. This is wild.
Somehow
Somehow
just pray to the Twilight Dev gods now.
You know what,
doing
they have
an insane amount of damage.
Now is doing way more damage than Lighty. Zaylee is doing way more damage than J.B. Other than that, the numbers look fairly even between the hunters. But yeah, it looks like maybe they're leveraging some more tank and healer damage. And that Beastmaster does need to be killed by Golden Guardians as well. I think that WUNDERBAR have come back in this thing.
WUNDERBAR's gonna win this. Tratos.
Oh no, and there's a death to seal the deal here for the Golden Guardians. Lip going down. That is going to be all that WUNDERBAR, I think, needs now to win this. They just have the last 10% of this boss's health to take care of, and then they will win this game. Game 1 here, despite a huge mistake at the start, going to WUNDERBAR. Whew.
That's right, against all odds here, WUNDERBAR, you know, missing out on the early advantage, the early lead, but they end up coming back in this with just such an amazing competition between both of these teams. WUNDERBAR ekes out the win right under Golden Guardian's nose here, Zyro. Absolutely ridiculous.
And I think the thing we really have to look at is their ending time of high 20s is about on par with other runs that we've seen in this tournament. I mean, Golden Guardians had a King's Rest run earlier on that was a 20-30-ish run, so the fact that WUNDERBAR had that massive mistake and we're still kind of able to kite it out with Hunters a little bit and still put up a relatively fast time is pretty incredible.
Yeah, and it really just goes to show that you cannot count this team out at all, and it just kind of keeps on going back and forth as well, Dranos, where we're seeing, you know, small advantages that teams are trying to capitalize on, but they're just so good in the clutch.
I mean, it was an uncharacteristically bad run for WUNDERBAR here. To have that kind of wipe happen for them at the start of the run, I don't think either team is going to be happy with how things went here. Either team would have lost to the runs from Friday of the other team, so yeah. This is a scary place for both teams to be, and either one of them can step it up here, and if the other team keeps playing like this, they'll be able to win by just going back to their usual performance.
That's right. Let's start breaking down how those small advantages started coming about from the beginning of this round, Zyro.
Yeah, I mean, I think the major save for WUNDERBAR here is that they didn't end up actually full wiping. They realized that with the 2 Hunters they had left alive, they just had to finish off the Witch Doctor to make sure the Shadow Bolt Volleys didn't go off. And they were able to kite out the 2 champions afterwards, and that was just really smart heads-up play by both Gingy and Fragments there. Now, of course, just the random deaths on the side of Golden Guardians. Like, I don't know what this move is supposed to be here. That Monk play seems so ridiculous and unnecessary. Just have your Hunter soak it. It's not going to one-shot you on 21 unless you get hit with spinning axes. I don't know why you go for that play. I feel like it was almost they were trying to style or something, and it actually ended up losing them the match. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, and from experience, you know, trying to make that transcend play as well, you have to kind of run against the lip of that window or of the edge of the room, so it can be kind of a pain perfectly timing it when you want to if you're not as comfortable falling down deeper into the pit. But if you do it properly, you know, it looks great. But like you mentioned, what's the purpose of it when you're at a 21? You know you're not going to get one shot. You have defensives available to be able to work off of, and
I mean, it's a time save.
You just have to damage globals, right? Yeah.
Yeah, you just have to be sure. You gotta, if you're gonna try it, you gotta be 100% sure it's gonna work. So if it ever messes up like that, then it was not worth it to ever.
But I mean, the Hunters can just DPS in the move the entire time.
They can DPS while they're knocked in the air anyways. All their casts are instant.
Yeah, but JB is gonna lose less damage. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, what's he gonna lose, like 2 globals? He's losing the 2 globals running out anyways to transcend.
That's what I was gonna say. He's gonna lose a couple globals there, and I believe he already is still running some Gushing Wounds, if any, but most of it's just straight versatility. So, yeah, I mean, he's honestly just running full versatility, so the damage he takes isn't going to be a big deal. He could very easily survive, even if, you know, some of the Hunters weren't in there as well. So, it's just extra melee strikes, extra damage that he'd be missing out on.
I also don't want to chalk this up to just mistakes from Golden Guardians, because WUNDERBAR definitely showed some crazy gameplay as well. Like, the damage values on the last boss alone, They were in it to win it. They were absolutely pumping that boss. So it wasn't just the mistakes from Golden Guardians. It was going to be close either way, but I think the mistakes sealed the deal for WUNDERBAR.
It wasn't just the damage values. Like it wasn't just the overall DPS from WUNDERBAR that was insane on the final boss to me. It was the fact that they had just wild amounts of priority damage on Dazar while maintaining those insanely high values on their overall.
Yeah, and it just goes to show, you know, every little difference that can be squeezed out, every little advantage that they can take care of, they really do. They really go for everything possible, which also means it's going to push us into the next round, which is going to be on Workshop, and honestly, kind of a similar feel to this dungeon from KR, you know? Mostly on the rails. There's going to be a lot of just priority target damage coming through on this one, Dranos.
Yeah, I actually love watching these two teams clash in this kind of dungeon because it is such a mirror match of ideas as well to see, you know, to see such a similar strategy coming out in the dungeon and just who can execute it better. That being said, in King's Rest, we actually saw differences in pull patterns, and we may see that here at Workshop as well. One thing to wonder about is if anybody has adopted the Void Elf technology that was debuted yesterday by Complexity Limit. That's the kind of thing that these teams certainly may have had enough time to practice, but you know, they had to choose whether to spend that time on this or on something else.
That's true, and it is going to be like a really big investment if they do, but potentially a very profitable one as well, Tettles, because guess what the first round of the Grand Finals is? It's going to be a Workshop, if it doesn't get banned, of course.
Workshop, as it's been described many times, a very on-the-rails dungeon, hard to innovate, but this Golden Guardians team and this Wunderbar team have been the kings of innovation for an incredibly long time, have a lot of skill. I wonder if they're going to have any strategies that have yet to be seen inside of these dungeons, like what we saw from Complexity Limit yesterday, the multi-Void Elf racial skip over the ledge strategy. That was interesting. I wonder if either team is going to adopt it. I'm not entirely sure if it's like a huge time save, but it's definitely unique.
Definitely is. And, oh, we love to see our stats, Zyro. Look at King Mechagon.
Yeah,
at
he's
least
a
one death.
dangerous boss. He's a dangerous boss. He can do a lot of damage with those Giga Zaps, and we saw yesterday happen to Complexity Limit. You don't have any of those major personal cooldowns up, and you get some corruption effects on top of a Giga Zap, you're just going to go down. There's nothing that can be done to save you. So this is a very scary boss. Any boss that really has a lot of focused single target damage on any one player is something that needs to be taken seriously, and this is one of those.
Especially when it cannot be eluded as well. And I was just looking through, I don't think we've seen either of these teams play Workshop. It's always gotten banned out for them, but you gotta know that they'd be practicing it or have some strong strategy as well if they know it's going to be the first round of the Grand Finals. I'm extraordinarily interested to see this one, and here we go, diving right into the Workshop. Dratnos, Tettles, let's take it away.
All right, now we have this very first pull of the dungeon. This is where a lot of time can be lost if you're not clean with it. All about getting everything killed within a couple seconds. Looks like Wunderbar are going to be trying to do it with the Rocket Barrage cast, and they have succeeded. Golden Guardians are trying to do it with the hammers, and they have done the opposite of succeeded. They have reverse succeeded.
Now they have a very bolstered bomb.
Yeah, they're going to be able to kill it there with that hammer, but that is costly for them in terms of time. That is 15 seconds that Wunderbar has been gifted for free here. You saw there are actually those different ways that you can kill the enemies as well. That is pretty cool. The either using the Rocket Barrage or the hammer. And you can see now Wunderbar, yeah, they're getting started with this boss. 15 seconds before Golden Guardians.
This is such... honestly, the hammer timing in Workshop is one of the things that can make or break your run so heavily, it feels like. Because it allows you... like, if you play it perfectly, it just ends up giving you such a time advantage over a team, over a different team, if they don't just have the most clean hammers or rocket barrages possible.
Wow, now is flirting with disaster. They're running right next to the Vent Jets on the No Mercy. They'll be grouping up here, and they'll be using this last hammer charge to finish off No Mercy and remove the last piece of Platinum armor from the Platinum Pummeler. Oh no! Now got knocked in a weird direction, though, as a result of getting hit by his Saw Blade, and that is going to mean that No Mercy will charge in a weird direction, not towards the hammer.
Golden Guardians are starting to catch back up. So the hammers do actually have an execution style, like an execute style effect whenever mobs are lower. And with Golden Guardians stacking all 5 players inside of this is going to one-shot No Mercy, and the Platinum Pummeler is going to be significantly lower for Golden Guardians than it is for Wunderbar. This may actually end up killing the Platinum Pummeler.
It's certainly going to do a lot of damage there. You can see Platinum Pummeler down now to 5% health, and they'll just be killing it off, not even bothering going to that last hammer.
Ooh, Golden Guardians.
Yep.
Excellent hammer management allows them to start coming back.
It was such a disaster there for Wunderbar that the Platinum Pump, or the No Mercy charged in the wrong direction. That is really, really bad for them. And you see here, this is going to cost them far more time than the first mistake from Golden Guardians. And once again, we are 2 minutes into this, and both Golden Guardians and Wunderbar have made costly time mistakes that are really uncharacteristic for either team.
All right, so now Golden Guardians, you see Lighty running down, grabbing all of these living wastes and waste processing units at once. He will be melding off all of that trash. Everybody's going to be using their combat drop abilities to be able to get out of combat. Those mobs are fairly dangerous, especially in a bolstering environment. We've seen a lot of different strategies for how teams are dealing with these waste processing units, these junkyard dogs, the living wastes, all of that trash over there in that area. There's the most unique amount of way to be able to deal with it. WUNDERBAR looking like they're doing something very similar to what Golden Guardians just did, though.
Yeah, what was Frag doing over at the side of the room there? Was he potentially pulling some trash in?
We missed something. Golden Guardians has lusted Cujo. WUNDERBAR lusted No Mercy for You and Platinum Pummeler.
And took way longer on it.
Yes, got beat by 20 seconds on that fight.
That is great positioning then for Golden Guardians. That extra Bloodlust they'll have access to here. This is something actually that people are doing on the live servers too, saving that Bloodlust for Cujo instead. It doesn't actually affect your second and third Bloodlust, assuming you want it on the live servers for the second to last and last boss. In the MDI, you're only getting 2 lusts in this dungeon, but you still will be able to get 1 on King Mechagon, even if you lust Cujo instead of the first boss. You're not under a huge amount of pressure to lust the first thing you can, which you are in dungeons that are closer to a 10-minute timer.
Yeah, Golden Guardians and WUNDERBAR doing something great with how they're positioning Cujo after this leap. They're making sure that they get Cujo to the corner of the box. That allows everybody to be able to DPS Cujo during that Vent Jet cast. Golden Guardians here are going to be down in Cujo about 35% ahead of WUNDERBAR.
This is a great position to be in for Golden Guardians.
Oh yeah, no, this is absolutely fantastic, especially in a Tyrannical setting, being 32% ahead. That probably. Dude, look at Golden Guardians. They're actually skipping all this trash. That means that they're going to play the 5-pack at the top of the landing after the final boss.
Yeah, they've decided nothing in the waste processing area is going to be taken care of. They will just be doing all of the rest of the trash of the entire dungeon instead. We'll see if WUNDERBAR has the same idea, and it looks like they might, because you see WUNDERBAR here, you can get an idea of what they're planning to do because they take bosses towards where they want to go, and you see they're all kind of just cheating towards the exit there. That is a very WUNDERBAR move to do, right? To just always have a boss right at the edge of the room that you're going to want to be leaving at when the boss dies. That's that thinking ahead. It's all the thought process of just what is the next pull going to be? What can we do now? You know, while we're also DPSing to prepare ourselves for the next pull and to save ourselves travel time.
Yes, and we saw yesterday. I believe I think most of the teams yesterday pulled like waste processing units and junkyard dogs into the bottom 20-some-odd% of Cujo. So just completely different in strategy. We've seen a lot of different strategies coming into this workshop dungeon across the whole weekend.
Yeah, WUNDERBAR and Golden Guardians, though, on a mirror strategy so far, completely identical pull patterns, and I think for the rest of the dungeon, they're kind of locked into being the same as well, because there's really not too many options in this dungeon. The only options, it's not what you pull, it's how you pull it that they could differ on.
Yeah, Golden Guardians are 1 full gauntlet trash pack ahead. They killed the Mark III and Mark I robots. 1 literal gauntlet trash pack ahead. Now Golden Guardians have engaged the Blastotron. WUNDERBAR about 50% onto these defense bots and are trying to chew through them as quickly as possible, eagerly trying to play catch up.
I'm getting some serious deja vu here because they were 1 gauntlet trash pack ahead in King's Rest as well.
I think I've been here before, Jet. I agree with you.
Alright, Golden Guardians downing the Blastotron. They will now be activating this obelisk. This is an obelisk that pretty much everybody activates because the opportunity cost is so low. You could just go through the gauntlet the old-fashioned way, but that is risky as well, and then you don't get the benefit of killing off Malthair, which you get by doing this. So
I've heard rumors of teams being able to skip over and reset Spark Flux with some weird techniques. But again, they ended up deciding at the end of the day that the techniques required to be able to do this, it's better to just play the obelisk even and not have it with the final boss.
Yeah, that's the thing is, you know, you could save 20 seconds or something compared to the minute you normally save by skipping an obelisk, but
you have to.
The benefit is still the same for doing the obelisk, and the benefit is actually it's somewhat valuable. You know, killing Malthair, that's good.
Yeah,
1 less thing to deal with on the last boss.
Exactly, it's 1 less thing to deal with on the last boss. And basically you'd have to wait for Spark Flux to reset anyways. So, hey, there's merit in just playing that obelisk. That obelisk is probably one of the most efficient awakened obelisks in the game in terms of time cost versus time saved.
Yeah, this is a dungeon that's actually a little bit easier on the +10 level than the +9 because you get that obelisk and you don't have to deal with that stupid gauntlet that I can never manage to do it move quickly.
I think we're all there with you there, Vetnos. Golden Guardians have engaged Head Machine and Spark Flux. It looks like WUNDERBAR is starting to catch back up relative to where they were boss HP-wise on Cujo. They are not in position where I would feel comfortable, though.
Yeah, that's the thing. Well, that's the thing about WUNDERBAR is just, that they do the same pathing as other teams, and just boss health is melting faster for them. They're just there, they walk the same steps, and somehow it's faster. I don't really understand it, but yeah, it's just, if you just take your eyes off of them for a second, that lead of the other team just keeps shrinking.
Maybe it's the advantage of having like 2 Hunter mains on their team, in Miraz and Jinji, versus... I mean, Shakiba's been playing a significant amount of Hunter on live. Lip and Yoda are both very, very strong multi-classers. So, I don't know, man. It's weird to me that WUNDERBAR is able to catch up like they always do.
Yeah, Beastmaster Hunter, extremely skill-intensive rotation, so having those people with the years of experience on it leads to just so much more damage coming out of it, for sure.
Beast Mastery Hunter, also the most interesting class in the game.
Absolutely, yeah. You love the way that they get... This actually is such a great fight for them as well, because normally it's so punishing for ranged players and for melee players, because, the melee players are trying to stand next to Spark Flux while there's all this area denied, and the ranged players are trying to stand still while there's all this stuff that can stop them, and BM Hunters just get the best of both worlds, right? They can stand anywhere and move freely.
All right, GG with the bolstering strats, waiting for Head Machine and Spark Flux to reach sub 20% before pulling all of these robots and other assorted trash mobs, tinkerers and whatnot into this boss fight. Now they have to do the fire circle while having all this trash available to him. Lighty just standing in the cog, making sure that he positions the mobs first and foremost before anything else. Yoda ends up going down. There is a checkpoint available at this point in the fight, so Yoda immediately, as soon as Head Machine Spark Flux dies, accepts that he releases his spirit, is now engaging back into combat with these mobs. WUNDERBAR doing something very similar on the left-hand side of your screen. They need to make sure that they don't have any deaths. They are still what is looking to be about 20 to 25 seconds behind Golden Guardians.
Yeah, Golden Guardians do now have a death on the board, so that is going to be a 5-second penalty that'll be assessed at the end of the run, so that is not great for them. But yeah, it looks like about a 20-second differential when you factor that in, now separating these two teams.
Golden Guardians. So now you have here, the Golden Guardians did end up killing off that spider tonk, the tonk that's at the top of the hill first, to be able to get the RP from that robot that is going to carry them up towards that landing area on the way to King Mechagon. WUNDERBAR doing something very similar. You do see on the left side of your screen, one of those tonks is marked with that skull icon, and they are DPSing it down about 30% ahead of the other one.
Yeah, even though the other one will get bolstered here, this is still efficient because it starts that RP, and therefore you're not waiting for this stupid, helicopter thing to get there in time. All right, Golden Guardians now with this pull. So they're going to be doing this bridge in 2 pulls. This is the first and slightly easier of the pulls. 3 mechanomes and 2 of those robots. But even still, this is actually a very lethal part of the dungeon, this bridge.
Especially whenever you do have these 2 Mark III robots in the pull. They cast a short out ability. Since you do have double shield generators out at once, as long as you do not have a lapse in the mitigation from those shield generators, you should be fine. This pull right here that Golden Guardians is engaging is probably one of the most dangerous pulls in any dungeon. It's probably rivaled by the double matron under rock pull that nobody ever does.
All right, we have the Golden Guardians now engaging it while WUNDERBAR still working on the pull just behind where they were. So yeah, the second to last pull for WUNDERBAR, the last one for Golden Guardians, and yeah, those shield generators, it's so scary when they disappear. When you see them disappear, especially if you were counting on their mitigation, that is, I think, one of the biggest sources of deaths in this area.
Letty doing a good job of kiting his way into that shield generator as well to be able to get some of the mitigation. You do see that overcharge buff. It looks like a stopwatch over the Mark III robot's head. It gives them an immense amount of haste, so you have to be kind of scared whenever the short out is going out with that buff on them, and the turtles come out from the hunters of Golden Guardians. That's
not great. The turtle is a really useful cooldown to have in phase 1 of this this boss fight here. So I guess they'll have it for phase 2 coming back probably, but you can see pets getting dismissed here and resummoned, summoning out these turtles. The turtles are going to be the pet of choice for 2 of the 3 hunters here because they are tenacity pets for a 20% DR from their pet family, and they have a 50% DR personally, and the combination of those 2 on this plus 21 key level is enough to survive a Spirit Breaker cast. from Urgroth Breaker of Heroes, which they can use to soak instead of the tank
So,
taking it.
exactly. Historically, and you can see it from Wunderbar, they're using Core Hounds, which historically have been the hunter pet of choice for most of the MDI. But once we jumped from a 19 to a 21 level, being able to take a melee from Urgroth Breaker of Heroes actually is fairly important. And if you end up like eating the melee, you need both of those walls active. You need the 50% wall from the turtle, and you need the 20% DR from the tenacity pet. Just
Yeah, you can see actually pets getting revived here by Muras on the side of Wunderbar, whereas Golden Guardians have not. They've saved themselves 2 revived pet casts. So that is an efficiency advantage actually for Golden Guardians with this different pet selection.
Wunderbar
but the downside is
look at this, dude. Wunderbar is actually burning aerial unit R21X a little bit faster than Golden Guardians. Golden Guardians have their Bloodlust available, though.
Yes, Golden Guardians did not lust pull because their lust wasn't available on pull. They'll be lusting the next phase of this fight. Wunderbar have already used that lust, and they've used it to catch up, but they don't have access to that resource now for the end of the fight. So I'd say Golden Guardians still have an advantage here, but it is a small one. It is not one that I would feel good about up against the huge sustained damage that we've seen Wunderbar be able to put out so far.
5-second death differential as well is what separates these teams. Yoda going down on Heavy Machine and Spark Flux. So basically, Golden Guardians have to kill King Mechagon 5 seconds ahead of where Wunderbar end up killing King Mechagon. Which, if you have Bloodlust available,
Oh my goodness. King Mechagon jumping out of that first aerial unit at the exact same time for both teams. This is neck and neck. It is 5 seconds in favor of Wunderbar, whereas there is that Bloodlust in favor of Golden Guardians. I think I'd prefer to be on the Bloodlust side of things, but it is really, really, really close.
I would hate to be on either side of this, honestly. Yeah, I think I take the Bloodlust over the 5 seconds from death differential too, but goodness. Please
Lust
press
is still
Bloodlust,
being
sir.
held here by the Golden Guardians.
Why? There it is.
Wonder-
Okay, here comes the Bloodlust.
Okay, there it is. The
But they're
lust
10
comes out eventually.
Oh
This
man,
is going to be
they're
a
10%
defensive lust as
behind.
well. Getting it to overlap with this Magneto arm. There's some value there in affecting your healing.
There absolutely is some value there. Again, they need to kill King Mechagon himself once it comes out of the Omega Buster by 5 seconds because
Look
of
at
that
this!
death.
Wunderbar's actually opening this gap in their favor, despite Golden Guardians having a Bloodlust. I guess it's closing a little bit back up now, but again, Wunderbar gets a 5-second bonus here, so Golden Guardians, not only do they have to kill Omega Buster first, they have to do it by 5 seconds. And this is even on the health total between these two bosses. Now slightly in favor of Golden Guardians. Golden Guardians 1% ahead.
Go to the end of this.
That is not enough, though, Tettles. That's not enough. They need a few more than 1%.
Just 5 seconds.
They're hoping for somebody on the side of Wunderbar to die.
Yeah, that would be good. That would be what Golden Guardians needs for this. And both sides here just trying to do everything they can to eke out a little bit more damage. 4% now.
Golden
difference
Guardians is
on
going to kill the Omega
Buster.
Buster first.
Okay, and there it is.
so-
Omega Buster. Once King Mechagon dies, this is going to start a 5-second timer. Golden Guardians have to do everything they can to just kill this king. I don't think it's going to be enough, though. Yeah, there it is. The timer starts.
Whoa! This is 2 seconds again. Is this the second time in Workshop we've had just 2-second differences in performance right there? Wunderbar is actually insane. They didn't even have lust as they started the Omega Buster at the very end, and they still took the win, Zyro. What?
Wow. I mean, that's impressive. I don't really